A young man slowly regains consciousness. His head is spinning, his vision blurry, as the chaotic noise of a crowded room fills his ears. Meet Shaolin. With his messy black hair tinted green, striking cyan eyes, and sharp jawline, he jolts awake in total confusion. Our boy suddenly realizes he's no longer in his messy bedroom, but standing in the middle of a colossal, high-tech arena. Suddenly, a sharp pain hits his head and a crucial memory flashes before his eyes. He remembers the letter, the strange, glowing letter that started all of this. You see, before this madness, our boy was just a fresh university graduate trying to make ends meet. Sitting at his gaming setup with his blue headphones and a confident smirk, he made a living as a top-tier game booster. But despite his gaming success, his real life was a chaotic mess of empty snack bags and scattered clothes. Lying on his bed, scrolling mindlessly through his phone, he felt completely lost and bored with reality. His own father, a broad-shouldered, imposing man, had aggressively branded him as completely useless. Determined to prove his worth, our boy had moved out on his own, searching for his true calling. But just 2 days into his new independent life, a mysterious knock echoed through his apartment in the dead of night. A towering delivery man, his face hidden beneath a blue cap, handed over a strange, dark blue envelope with a sinister smile. The moment our boy tore open the package, violent sparks of blue magical energy erupted into the room. Before he could even react, a massive vortex of swirling dark tendrils and blinding light completely consumed him. His silhouette was violently sucked into the glowing portal, leaving his old life behind in an instant. The empty envelope fell to the floor, the only evidence that he was ever there. Snapping back to the present, our boy pieces it all together, realizing this insane kidnapping was caused by that very letter. His thoughts are interrupted by a booming, contemptuous voice mocking his weakness. Standing above him is a massive, muscular man with long, dark hair tied back. This imposing figure glares down at our boy with absolute disgust, furious that he stayed unconscious for so long. Without warning, a terrifying explosion of dark purple flames and lightning erupts from his body. The sheer force of his energy slashes through the air, violently tearing the ceiling apart and sending debris flying. The terrified group of students huddles together, completely paralyzed by the sheer gap in their strength. The imposing man finally introduces himself as Qin Chuan, their counselor for Class 7 at Dawn Academy. He reveals that they've been chosen to undergo brutal training to earn the right to enter something called the New World. Qin Chuan promises that in this new world, they can obtain unimaginable power, wealth, and even eternal life. The students are left in absolute shock, their minds struggling to process this insane revelation. Our boy realizes that with over 200 people here, this is a massive, highly organized operation. The scene shifts as the brutal potential assessment begins, with students stepping into a glowing, high-tech cylindrical pod. Qin Chuan ruthlessly dismisses student after student, calling their low attribute scores absolute garbage. He occasionally gets excited over a slightly above-average score, only to immediately return to his frustrated scowl. A stunning girl with waist-length jet black hair and a tall, perfectly proportioned figure steps into the machine, her expression completely detached. Finally, it's our boy's turn, and he steps confidently into the glowing blue assessment pod. While everyone else took only 6 seconds, the machine just keeps scanning him, refusing to stop. Qin Chuan's sharp eyes widen in shock as he realizes the machine has been scanning our boy for an entire minute. When the assessment finally completes, our boy steps out, relieved that the agonizing wait is over. But Qin Chuan immediately stops him, his face completely serious as he pulls up the holographic data. The counselor stares at the screen, wondering if they have just stumbled upon an absolute monster of a talent. Qin Chuan's tone suddenly shifts to one of deep respect as he addresses the black-haired girl from earlier. This mysterious girl with her long straight hair and slender frame has achieved the highest attributes among the entire group. Our boy watches closely, noting how even the arrogant counselor treats her with a level of deference he hasn't shown anyone else. Qin Chuan then instructs the students to mentally confirm their attribute values to see their full status screens. Our boy holds up a small glowing gold card, and a futuristic holographic display flickers into life before his eyes. The screen displays his name and ID, but then a terrifying warning at the bottom of his screen catches his eye, sending a chill down his spine. It states that every time he dies, 10 years of his lifespan will be automatically deducted from his remaining 60 years. Our boy is left reeling in horror, realizing that if he dies a few times, he'll be gone for good. The other students are equally panicked, realizing the lethal stakes of this so-called academy. Suddenly, another beep echoes from our boy's screen, revealing a hidden section that even Qin Chuan couldn't detect. A new window pops up, announcing a talent grade that has no match in the entire Academy's database. It reveals a passive talent called Talent Analysis, which massively increases his learning efficiency for all abilities. But the real game changer is an active effect, a copy ability that allows him to replicate any F-rating skill for 3 minutes. This incredible power can only be used once every 7 days, but its potential is absolutely limitless. Since there is no precedent for this talent, the system grants our boy the unique right to name it himself. He thinks for a moment, his sharp cyan eyes narrowing as he considers the possibilities of this new power. Keeping it simple and direct, he decides to name his unique talent Scholar. The system immediately processes the name, and a massive glowing SS grade flashes across his screen in a burst of purple light. He realizes that while his base stats are garbage, this SS rank talent is his ultimate trump card for survival in this hellish academy. Our boy stands tall, a confident, knowing smirk finally spreading across his face as he looks at his status. With his new power secured, our boy prepares to face whatever brutal trials Dawn Academy has in store for him.
A student suddenly raised a concern, his voice filled with unease as he stared at the screen in front of him. It showed that he only had 9 years of lifespan remaining. If death meant losing 10 years at once, then he would have nothing left after a single mistake. Before the fear could spread further, the instructor reacted impatiently. With a sharp reprimand, he knocked the student on the head and began to explain. The student's understanding wasn't entirely wrong. With only 9 years left, a single death would indeed mean instant death. But the instructor questioned whether that was truly something to complain about. In the outside world, lifespan decreased with time anyway, and when faced with fatal danger, death was still inevitable. Here, however, everything was different. Lifespan was not just time, it was a resource. It could be used like currency. By completing missions, students could earn points, strengthen themselves, and grow more powerful. This academy wasn't just a school, it was a ladder capable of changing one's destiny. Power, intelligence, wealth, even lifespan. Everything could be obtained as long as one had enough points. In fact, immortality itself was no longer an impossible dream, but something within reach. At that moment, a calm-looking girl with glasses raised a question. She wondered whether these rules applied only inside the academy or if they extended beyond it as well. The instructor answered without hesitation. Once someone became a student of this academy, the rules would follow them automatically. As long as they existed in this world, those rules would remain absolute. And just like that, the entrance examination was announced to begin. All the students gathered together, tension filling the air. The instructor ordered everyone to remain where they were and not move. Then an announcement echoed through the hall. The teleportation process was about to start. A countdown began. Every face was filled with anxiety as they silently waited. The moment the countdown reached 0, a purple aura descended upon them all. In an instant, every student vanished. The hall fell silent. Only the instructor remained behind, standing alone as he let out a frustrated sigh. Not a single talented student in his class. It was clear he wouldn't be getting good results this time. Just then, another instructor from a different class walked in, laughing loudly while holding a cigarette. He called out mockingly, boasting that his class 3 had 2 talented students, one A rank and one B rank. Curious, he asked about this class. The reply came with little confidence. There was one student with over 40 attribute points, but the other instructor dismissed it immediately. High attributes alone meant nothing. Talent was what truly mattered. The conversation drifted to rumors of a double S-rank student appearing in the UK the previous year, but it was quickly denied. There were no records of such a case. In fact, even S-rank individuals were incredibly rare across the entire world. Double S-rank simply didn't exist. Meanwhile, the students had already been teleported. They found themselves inside a goblin den. A foul stench filled the air, forcing everyone to cover their noses. In front of them, a blue screen appeared, displaying the details of the entrance test. Their main objective was simple: escape the forest and reach the safe zone within 1 hour. There were also optional tasks: kill 5 goblins or defeat the Goblin King. Completing the main task would grant 10 credits and 100 points. The first optional task would reward additional credits and points, while defeating the Goblin King would grant even greater rewards. Each student was also given a box containing a random weapon. And most importantly, there was no death penalty in this exam. Relief spread instantly. The protagonist quickly opened his box and obtained a novice staff, along with a skill that allowed him to fire an energy ball. At the same time, his wand mastery was unlocked. The system felt incredibly familiar, just like a game he had played before. Without hesitation, he decided to test it. Raising the wand, he fired an energy ball. It shot forward with force, leaving a visible mark on a nearby rock. Immediately, his wand experience increased. In that moment, he realized something crucial. Thanks to his hidden double S rank talent, he was receiving bonus gains. His skill progression was far faster than anyone else's. But when he tried to use the skill again, a sharp headache struck him. That was when he understood. His attributes were too low. He didn't have enough mana to cast the skill again. Nearby, a large-built student wielding a greatsword had made a similar discovery. Using a weapon gained experience. Watching him gain experience just by swinging, the protagonist couldn't help but feel envious. If he had a sword, he could increase his experience even before completing the mission. But it wasn't that simple. Experience didn't come from random swings. It required proper technique and training. And with a time limit in place, grinding experience wasn't practical. As he was thinking about switching to an easier weapon, the girl with glasses approached them from behind. She asked if she wanted to trade. Although she had never played games before, she had some knowledge of magic. The wand suited her attributes better, so she was interested in exchanging. After confirming her identity as Gu Shaolin, the protagonist introduced himself as Shaolin. The trade was quickly completed, though he warned her to use the wand carefully. The moment she obtained the sword, a sword skill unlocked. He began to consider forming a team, and was about to invite her when a muscular student with a greatsword stepped in first, asking Gu Shaolin to join him instead. Knowing she had the highest attributes in the class, he insisted she should team up with him rather than someone weaker. Gu Shaolin didn't even hesitate. She rejected him outright. The surrounding students began whispering, and embarrassment quickly turned into anger. The rejected student lashed out, directing his frustration towards the protagonist, mocking his low attributes and accusing him of acting without understanding anything. The protagonist remained calm. Passing the exam depended on individual ability. Instead of wasting time, they should focus on completing the test. That only made things worse. The large student grabbed his collar, ready to throw a punch, determined to prove himself. But the protagonist simply stated that he wouldn't be able to. And at that very moment, behind the large student, a small green goblin silently leapt forward, preparing to strike from the shadows.
A goblin suddenly launched a surprise attack from behind, slashing across a large student's face with his claws. Deep wounds tore through his skin, instantly igniting his rage. The goblin lunged again, but this time the student reacted. With a single swing, he cut it down. Just as he was about to mock our boy for standing by, he realized something. A massive group of goblins had gathered behind him. Armed and overwhelming, they advanced. Panic spread as the creatures charged, attacking relentlessly. The students fought back with their weapons, but the numbers were too much. One by one, many quickly fell. Our boy joined the fight with his newly traded sword, but as he clashed with them, something became clear. This wasn't just a game. Everything felt real. The pain, the impact, even the air. What should have been a simulation had turned into a fight for survival. For the inexperienced, it was a slaughter. Then someone noticed. The goblins weren't attacking those inside the cave. The information spread fast and everyone rushed in. Our boy followed, but he knew the safety was temporary. They had less than 30 minutes. While others calmed down, he trained. With low stats, he relied on technique, repeating precise movements to build efficiency. Time passed and the protection slowly ticked down. At 2 minutes remaining, anxiety returned. In the corner, Gu Xiaolue watched him. She pointed out that his training was meaningless. It would take at least an hour to level up. Our boy was impressed. She was right. For normal people. But with his double S talent, he needed far less experience. He thanked her and continued, then asked about the goblins. From observation, they were weak, around F rank, low defense with vital points at the head and heart. The mission wasn't difficult. Fear was the real problem. Soon, time ran out. As our boy and Xiaolue prepared to leave, the large student stopped them. He proposed teaming with Xiaolue, dismissing our boy as useless. But Xiaolue disagreed. The real reward wasn't survival. It was defeating the Goblin King. The large student rejected the idea. Survival was already hard enough. Facing a boss was absurd. But our boy thought differently. If a quest existed, it could be completed. There had to be a trigger. After considering possibilities, he reached a conclusion. It depended on the number of goblins killed. Another student questioned the risk. Why not just survive? Our boy answered clearly. There was no penalty for death, but success meant real rewards. Running away was a waste. If they could gain more, why not try? His words began to shift the group's mindset, but the large student mocked them again, boasting about his stats. Xiaolue cut him off. His stats were only slightly above average. When she revealed her own, he fell silent. Our boy felt a gap between them. Taking charge, Xiao Lue formed a clan. Teamwork was the key. The great sword student would hold the front. Ranged attacks would support from behind. Our boy would avoid direct combat, finishing weakened enemies. They stepped out of the cave. This time, the battle changed. The front line held. Ranged attacks suppressed the goblins. When enemies slipped through, our boy moved in, quick and precise. To others, it looked like luck, but Xiao Lue saw the truth. He was positioning perfectly, predicting movements, striking efficiently. Soon, our boy reached level 2. Not just luck, experience. His time in VR combat games paid off. A system notification appeared. He was the first to reach skill level 2. Reward? Heavy Slash, a powerful charged attack. Moments later, he finished another goblin, completing an optional task. Then something strange happened. The goblins began to disappear. One by one, they vanished. Silence fell. Then the announcer's voice returned. The goblin count had dropped by 1/3, which meant only one thing. The Goblin King was coming. From deep within the forest, a massive figure emerged, walking straight towards them. A massive goblin, far larger than the ordinary ones, slowly revealed its yellow eyes as it opened its mouth wide, exposing rows of sharp teeth while drawing in the surrounding air. Moments later, a deep, thunderous roar erupted from its throat. The sound wave it released spread violently through the dungeon. The freshmen were instantly thrown into chaos. The roar was so overwhelming that some desperately covered their ears, while others staggered in panic. As the sound wave faded, our boy and the girl with glasses remained standing, staring forward with tense expressions. In front of them stood a towering figure. Yellow eyes glowed under a monstrous brow. 2 horns curved from its head, and in its hand it gripped a massive wooden battle axe. The creature's size dwarfed everyone present, and thick vapor poured from its mouth as it glared down at them. This was a dungeon boss, the Goblin King. Our boy glanced around the battlefield and quickly noticed something strange. All the smaller goblins had disappeared. The remaining freshmen looked at the enormous monster in front of them, their faces filled with terror. None of them could even imagine how to fight something so large and terrifying. One frightened student suddenly turned and tried to run. Our boy attempted to stop him, but it was already too late. He knew one important trait about goblins. Their eyesight was limited, but their sense of smell and hearing were incredibly sharp. The fleeing student's movement instantly drew the Goblin King's attention. The monster's glowing yellow eyes shifted sharply toward the running figure. At that moment, the gangster-like student who had previously argued with our boy stepped forward. Believing their numbers gave them the advantage, he raised his large sword and charged at the Goblin King without hesitation. He leapt forward and swung his blade with full force. But the Goblin King didn't even bother turning to look. With a single casual thrust of his fist, it struck the attacker directly in the chest. The impact was devastating. The gangster was launched violently across the ground. Blood burst from his mouth as his sword slipped from his grasp. He died instantly. The remaining freshmen stared in horror at the lifeless body lying on the ground. Fear completely shattered their courage. Weapons fell to the floor as panic screams filled the dungeon. One by one, the students scattered and fled in every direction. But the chaos only made things worse. Those who ran too close were crushed beneath the Goblin King's heavy steps. Others were smashed to death by the enormous axe. One female freshman was struck by the shock of the Goblin King's axe swing and sent flying across the ground. As she lay helplessly on the floor, the Goblin King raised its weapon high above her, preparing to deliver the finishing blow. Suddenly, a streak of purple magic shot through the air and struck the Goblin King's arm. The attack interrupted its movement. The falling girl managed to escape while the Goblin King's health bar dropped slightly. The one who fired the spell was none other than the girl with glasses. However, the attack had barely missed its intended target, leaving her sweating nervously. Despite her calm appearance and elegant figure, her mind was racing. The damage dealt to the arm was minimal. Vital points had to be targeted to deal real damage. Originally, the plan had been simple. The melee fighters would distract the boss while the ranged attackers dealt damage from behind. If everyone had worked together, the Goblin King could have been defeated, but the formation had already collapsed. Now, the massive Goblin King stood directly in front of the girl with glasses. Her plan had been far too idealistic. As the Goblin King slowly lifted its axe again, preparing to strike her down, she froze in place. Then, a shout suddenly broke through her thoughts. A blade flashed forward at incredible speed. But instead of a lethal strike, only a lock of the Goblin King's hair was cut away. The attacker was none other than our boy. The Goblin King roared in fury, its yellow eyes blazing with anger after having its hair sliced off. It immediately swung its massive axe toward him. Our boy reacted instantly, leaping away with incredible speed. As he landed, he supported himself with one hand on the ground, breathing heavily. In that brief moment, he analyzed the boss's behavior. The Goblin King always attacked the closest target. Without wasting time, our boy called out to the girl who had escaped earlier and was hiding behind a nearby tree, telling her not to be afraid and attack the monster from a distance. The girl in the purple outfit nervously drew her bow and prepared to shoot. Our boy then instructed Gu Xiaowei to strike immediately whenever she saw an opening, since her attack power was the highest. His words restored the fighting spirit of the remaining two girls. Arrows and magic attacks were launched simultaneously toward the Goblin King. The barrage of attacks struck the monster hard enough that its massive axe slipped from its grip and fell to the ground. Seeing this opportunity, our boy urged them to continue attacking. The Goblin King, enraged by the pain, bared its enormous fangs and roared furiously. Then it raised both of its gigantic arms high into the air. With terrific force, it slammed them into the ground. The impact shattered the earth, sending rocks and chunks of soil flying in all directions. One of those flying stones struck the girl in the purple outfit directly. She died instantly. Now the battlefield had grown silent again. Only 3 figures remained: the weaponless Goblin King, our boy, and Gu Xiaowei. Gu Xiaowei looked exhausted as she glanced towards our boy, uncertainty filling her eyes. Our boy, also breathing heavily, asked how many more energy bolts she could fire. Sweat dripped from Gu Xiaowei's face as she looked down at her magic staff. 2. That was all she had left. Our boy nodded. 2 shots would be enough. If they could land the headshot, the damage would be significant. All she needed was to hit the Goblin King's head. But Gu Xiaowei hesitated. The monster was moving too quickly. Hitting such a target would not be easy. Our boy responded calmly. He would make sure it kept moving. At that moment, a purple glow suddenly appeared in his eyes. His hidden skill activated. Scholar. With his glowing eyes scanning the Goblin King, information about the monster began to reveal itself. Among its abilities, he discovered the shock wave skill. For most of his life, he had considered himself useless, a constant failure. But this battle would be different. This was the moment to prove his true strength. Our boy raised his sword. Dark purple energy began swirling around him like the manifestation of his hidden skill. His gaze sharpened. After analyzing the Goblin King's ability, he copied the shockwave skill and prepared to unleash it in battle. Without a trace of fear on his face, our boy charges towards the Goblin King at full speed with an unwavering, determined glare. On the flip side, the enraged Goblin King raises his massive fist, ready to crush our boy with his devastating shockwave skill. Noticing this, our boy immediately activates his copied skill, using his sword to counter the Goblin King's brutal blow. Since both are using a shockwave skill, our boy takes the advantage because his wind-up time is significantly shorter. The sheer force of their clash pushes them both backward, and our boy quickly jams his sword into the ground to break and kill his backward momentum. Right after, a clear look of validation flashes across his sweat-drenched face, proving his calculations were dead on. The furious Goblin King instantly reels back to slam his fist down again, but suddenly a purple magic attack blasts right into the Goblin King. Taking the direct hit, the Goblin King's health bar instantly plummets. Gu Xiaowei, the one who fired the magic attack, pants heavily and warns our boy that she only has enough juice left for one last shot. This sneak attack only makes the Goblin King even more furious, and he immediately rips boulders from the surrounding ground, prepping to smash them down on our boy. Our boy sees this coming and wants to dodge, but he knows he won't be able to evade completely because his skill is currently stuck on a 16-second cooldown. Realizing he can't dodge, he completely abandons the idea of running and takes the Goblin King's attack head-on with just one arm. The brutal impact triggers a massive explosion, sending thick smoke billowing into the air, while Gu Xiaowei watches from afar, frantically screaming out our boy's name in sheer panic. But stepping out of the smoke like an absolute boss, our boy casually reassures her that he is fine, despite the fact that he is now completely missing an arm. Without missing a beat, the Goblin King prepares to unleash another shockwave, but our boy dashes forward with blinding speed, sliding right through the Goblin King's legs, jams his sword into the ground to channel a purple aura, Manhwa and unleashes his off-cooldown shockwave directly from under the beast, erupting into a massive purple blast. At that exact moment, our boy signals Gu Xiaowei to fire off her most powerful magic attack. Boasting an absolutely flawless figure, Gu Xiaowei channels a purple magic bolt from her staff and snipes it straight into the Goblin King. The devastating hit completely drains the Goblin King's health bar, sending his massive body crashing heavily to the dirt. With the epic battle finally over, an exhausted our boy stands panting, heavily leaning on his sword with his one remaining arm. Shortly after, the sword slips from his grip, and completely drained of all energy from the intense fight, he collapses helplessly to the ground. As he falls, the lingering thought in his mind is that he must have failed the safe zone quest. Before completely losing consciousness, the very last thing he sees is the image of a worried Gu Xiaowei rushing over to catch him. The scene transitions to a grand assembly hall where the results of the Dawn Academy entrance exam are officially being announced. There, a gentlemanly department head casually puffs on a cigarette while giving a brief rundown of this year's exceptionally unique results. He announces that a total of 1,360 freshmen have been divided into 12 classes, but what truly leaves everyone stunned is that a staggering 15 students managed to achieve an S rank. Hearing this news, the other teachers praise the caliber of this year's freshmen, noting that earning an S rank requires completing all 3 tasks while also actually managing to survive. One teacher proudly brags about having 2 talented students in his class, while a female teacher happily boasts that 2 of her students hit B rank. The department head then declares that with 13 officially recognized talented students among the freshmen, this is the absolute best batch they've seen in the past decade. Amidst the celebration, the homeroom teacher of Class 7 frustratedly taps his fingers on the table, visibly disappointed that not a single talented student was placed in his class. But the room is completely taken off guard when the department head reveals that although Class 7 lacks traditionally talented students, it actually set 2 brand new academy records. The first record is that 2 non-talent students deemed to have 0 potential managed to score an S rank simultaneously. The second record completely shatters the academy's all-time history for the highest intelligence attribute ever recorded by a freshman. Paradoxically, these exact same students also simultaneously set the record for the lowest overall attributes in the academy's entire history. The owners of these bizarre records are none other than our boy and the glasses-wearing Gu Xiaowei. The fact that these 2 students with such polarizing stats managed to secure an S rating makes the achievement even more incredible. Their unbelievable results even managed to catch the direct attention of the academy principal. With the entrance test officially wrapped up, all the students are teleported back to the academy grounds. After stepping out of the teleportation zone, the students are overjoyed to find their injuries completely healed. Our boy stares in absolute amazement at his task status, seeing an overall S rating for successfully killing the Goblin King and reaching the safe zone. However, the absolute last thing he remembers is passing out on the battlefield. He's forced to turn around when he hears a voice repeatedly calling out his name from behind. It turns out to be the girl in the purple shirt who fought alongside our boy's group. The girl, whose tight purple t-shirt perfectly accentuated her beautiful bust and slim waist, expresses her deep gratitude to our boy and Gu Xiaowei and admits that she wouldn't have easily gotten an A rank without them. She also expresses regret over dying to the Goblin King's shockwave at the end of the fight, and shyly asks if they actually managed to defeat the boss. When our boy confirms their victory, the girl's face immediately lights up with pure joy. Right at that moment, the gangster glares at our boy and scoffs in obvious displeasure. He bitterly mocks our boy, claiming it was just pure luck, adding that without Gu Xiaowei, our boy would have died countless times. Following that, Gu Xiaowei completely ignores the gangster, walks right past him, and calls our boy's name. Flaunting her incredibly alluring figure and thrusting out her big chest with an arrogant yet confident look, she tells our boy that they need to have a private chat about the battle that just went down.
When Gu Xiaoyu and our boy finally had a private moment, he expressed his gratitude for her guidance to the safe zone. However, Xiaoyu made it clear that her actions were never out of simple kindness. It had been a calculated, mutually beneficial decision aimed at maximizing their rewards. She pointed out that without his rare ability to interrupt the Goblin King's skill, they would have never secured the final blow. As he reflected on how precise and strategic she truly was, Xiaoyu shifted the conversation. Based on his attributes alone, interfering with a boss-level skill should have been nearly impossible. While she acknowledged that he must be hiding some kind of secret, she chose not to pry further.
Instead, she redirected the focus towards something more practical, the system's nameplate feature, which allowed users to connect with one another. For the sake of future cooperation, she suggested they exchange contacts and add each other as friends. Under her guidance, he followed the process. A small interface panel appeared before him displaying detailed information such as student ID, points, credits, and basic attributes. After exchanging IDs, the two successfully added each other. Not long after, an instructor gathered all F-rank students at the entrance, while those with higher ranks were instructed to head towards the central playground using the Smart Brain map. As Xiaoyu and our boy prepared to leave, the instructor noticed them and briefly called Xiaoyu aside for a private conversation. Left alone, our boy opened his map and began navigating his way, his thoughts lingering on what they might be discussing. Upon arriving at the central playground, he was met with a massive crowd of students. The sheer number of people gathered there made him uneasy, as he began to wonder whether the sudden disappearance of so many individuals from their original world would cause chaos. Just then, Xiaoyu approached them from behind, casually checking if everything was all right. She reassured him that she hadn't revealed anything she wasn't supposed to, easing his concerns. Their brief exchange was interrupted by a commanding voice ordering everyone to clear the way. A small-framed young man with striking blue hair walked forward, accompanied by several students who resembled bodyguards. Stepping onto the stage, he introduced himself as the president of the student council and began addressing the crowd. He mentioned that the headmaster would be arriving shortly and welcomed everyone in advance. Before he could continue, a thunderous roar suddenly descended from the sky. The overwhelming sound shook the entire area, forcing everyone to look up in shock. What they saw left them frozen in place, a massive dragon radiating a brilliant purple aura as it soared above them. Our boy could hardly believe his eyes, questioning whether such a creature could truly exist. Then the dragon roared once more. This time, the sheer force of its presence triggered a primal fear within everyone. Our boy's body stiffened completely, as if turned to stone. It wasn't just him. Every student, including Gu Xiaoyu, stood frozen, unable to move under the overwhelming pressure. The dragon soon descended to the ground, and from its back stepped an elderly man dressed in flowing white robes holding a magical staff. His presence alone carried an authority that silenced the entire crowd. It quickly became clear. This man was the headmaster. The student council president attempted to comment on the grand entrance, but the headmaster immediately snapped back with visible irritation, dismissing the idea that he had come to show off. He explained that he had just returned and lacked the time for anything more subtle, which is why he arrived riding the dragon. However, when the dragon let out another excited roar towards the students, the headmaster's temper flared. He sharply warned the creature, threatening severe consequences if it caused any more disturbances. Through this exchange, our boy finally realized who the man truly was. More importantly, he couldn't shake the feeling that this headmaster might be the only person capable of seeing through his hidden talent. The headmaster then addressed the students, stating that he was already aware of their entrance exam results and acknowledged the presence of several promising talents. As he spoke, his gaze briefly landed on our boy, further deepening his unease. Using magic, the headmaster formally introduced himself before addressing the confusion everyone was feeling. He openly admitted that their sudden arrival must have left them disoriented and frustrated. With a surprisingly casual tone, he shifted the blame on the admission department, joking that any complaints should be directed there for bringing students in at such an unreasonable time. He even went as far as to declare a new rule, that future admissions must strictly take place during the daytime. After lightening the mood with humor, he finally moved to the questions weighing most heavily on everyone's minds: who they were and what they were meant to do. The answer was far from ordinary. He revealed that they were not merely students, they were colonizers. This world, known as Norma, was a newly discovered realm, often referred to as a new world. Dawn Academy, he explained, had been established with a single purpose: to train the finest colonizers capable of conquering and expanding into this new land. The students standing before him were chosen to venture into Norma, to fight, survive, and ultimately claim it. And in the future, it would be them, the students, who would rule that world. At the Academy's opening ceremony, the principal made one thing clear. The moment the acceptance letter arrived, an ordinary life was already over.
From that day forward, the students were no longer just learners, but future commanders destined to conquer a new world. Some would rise as powerful mages wielding overwhelming magic, while others would become leaders who shaped the rules of that world. Strength, knowledge, power, and even immortality were promised as rewards waiting for them ahead. Before ending the ceremony, the principal introduced a shocking new rule. Normally, freshmen were strictly forbidden from entering the new world early, but now the top 3 students in the class exam would be granted early access. Although the student council president raised concerns about the dangers, a single sharp glance from the principal was enough to silence any objections. With that, the ceremony came to an end. Watching the exchange, our boy couldn't shake the feeling that something was off between the principal and the student council president. At that moment, their instructor arrived and unexpectedly appointed him as a temporary class monitor. The position was originally meant for Gu Xiaoyue, but after she refused, it fell to him. Becoming class monitor came with extra credits, resources, and privileges, things described as a lifeline for someone weak like him. However, the role would only last for 3 months, until the class exam. Almost immediately, a system message appeared in front of him, confirming his position as the temporary monitor of Class 7. Soon after, an AI delivered a freshman manual, urging him to study it carefully. Curious about the privileges, he headed to the dormitory. There, he was informed of strict rules: no leaving between 7 p.m. and 6 a.m. unless he was willing to spend credits. Upon realizing his status as class monitor, the staff member's attitude toward him noticeably changed. She personally handled his arrangements, allowing him to choose a private room, a luxury unavailable to ordinary students who had to share. The academy's hierarchy quickly became apparent. Uniform colors distinguished ranks. Second-year students wore blue, while freshmen wore green. He also received his student ID, an essential item for purchases, access, and attendance. After introducing herself as Jiang Tingting, the staff member offered assistance anytime and even suggested staying in contact before leaving. Left alone, our boy began to understand the true weight of privilege. Strength determined status in this academy, and status shaped how others treated you. When he opened the class selection interface, he was overwhelmed by the sheer number of options. However, he quickly calmed himself and focused on what mattered most, improving his weak attributes as fast as possible. He chose basic swordsmanship as his primary class, believing it to be the fastest way to grow stronger. Alongside it, he selected essential subjects like history, geography, and languages. The next day, he began his training. As he practiced, he realized that true swordsmanship relied not on the wrist, but on power generated from the waist. Thanks to his skill granting double experience, his progress was explosive. Within just 30 minutes, he reached level 2, and in about an hour, he advanced to level 3. His strength stat increased as well, proving that his strategy was correct. That's when the instructor arrived, scolding the entire class. Disappointed by their performance, she declared that anyone who hadn't reached level 3 would not be allowed to leave. The students were thrown into despair, many realizing they had underestimated the difficulty. Some even complained that reaching level 2 alone took hours of non-stop effort. In the midst of this, our boy calmly stepped forward. Having already reached level 3, he requested permission to leave early and attend another class. His claim immediately drew suspicion. The instructor, staring at him sharply, questioned whether he was telling the truth, unable to believe that someone could achieve level 3 in less than 2 hours.